"You're a selfish error," my father declared, his voice cold and flat as my mother yanked me through the hospital corridor to save my sister. Then the doctor uttered 6 words that made my mother collapse to the floor. She had lied to the hospital staff, my father branded me a mistake, and my sister merely smirked, her eyes gleaming with triumph. But when I stepped up to the podium, clutching the test results and spoke her name, the room fell silent. What a tangled, dramatic family, right? Let me take you back to how this chaos began. My name is Ava, and I was never truly part of the family that raised me. My mother once tore my medical records to shreds in a public outburst, screaming that I was letting my sister die. My father stood by her side, echoing her accusations, calling me a selfish error. They demanded I surrender part of my liver for a sister who once laughed at my pain and spread rumors at school that I was adopted before I even knew the truth. But what still haunts me, pulling me from sleep, are the doctor's 6 words and the moment my mother's lies unraveled before her. What does it mean to discover your entire existence was built on deception? Was I always just a contingency plan? I sat frozen in that hospital chair, horrified, certain this wasn't just about a liver. The air felt thin, as if every breath I took was loaned, not mine to keep. Fragments of my medical records fluttered around my feet, like discarded tickets from a deal I never agreed to. My mother loomed over me, her face twisted with theatrical grief, urging me to do what's right, as if those words still held weight in our fractured family. "How can you sit there playing the victim?" she snapped, her voice slicing through the hushed lobby like shattered glass. "Your sister is dying, Ava, dying, and you're doing nothing at all." I avoided her gaze, instead scanning the onlookers. A nurse fiddled with a chart. A woman clutched her child tightly. A receptionist's fingers hovered over her keyboard. Their discomfort was palpable, pity, judgment, assumptions. No one stepped in to defend me. That wasn't new. I bent down to gather the scattered papers near my shoes, not out of guilt, but because I needed them. Evidence. Something solid that couldn't be reshaped like a fairy tale. My hands trembled, but only slightly. My mother stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper, as if softness made it more sincere. "I didn't raise you to be this heartless, this ungrateful. We gave you everything." I met her eyes, unflinching. "You gave me what you thought I owed you for." She blinked, and for the first time, silence fell. Not peace, not understanding, just an empty void where her anger couldn't reach. Then came the scream, calculated and piercing. "You're letting your sister die!" It echoed through the lobby. A nurse froze near a vending machine. A security guard glanced over. My mother knew how to make her pain a spectacle. I didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't move. I'd seen her grief before, and I wasn't giving her an encore. Through the glass wall of room 311, Leela lay in her hospital bed, pale but poised. Chemotherapy had dulled her once perfect appearance, but not her stare. Her eyes locked onto mine, and she smirked, not with gratitude or hope, but with possession. That was her talent always. She didn't need words, her expression said it all. "I'm still the center, and you're still circling me." I expected pity from her, maybe desperation. But that smug look stirred something deep inside me. I stood slowly, collecting the papers. My mother's breathing, erratic moments before, settled into a martyr's silence, her anger now a performance of restraint. "You'll regret this, Ava," she murmured, not meeting my eyes. "When she's gone, when this family is broken, you'll hate yourself for this moment." I tilted my head, studying her. "Funny," I said softly. "I remember plenty of moments, and none of them felt like family." I turned, not toward Leela, not toward my mother, not even toward the exit. I walked to the nurse's station. A few strangers parted to let me pass. The nurse closest to the scene met my eyes briefly, her mouth opening as if to speak, but she stopped. I didn't need her words or anyone else's. Everything I wanted to say, every defense, every proof that I wasn't the monster they painted, was scattered on the floor, torn but more whole than the family they tried to build. As I reached the end of the corridor, I paused. This was the moment everything shattered, not when they screamed, but when I stayed silent. I didn't shout, I didn't collapse, I just walked. And as I crossed into the next hallway, a realization hit harder than anything that morning. They weren't here to save Leela. They were here to prove I could still be controlled. But I wouldn't let them. Not now, not ever. The next blow came from my father. I hadn't taken 2 steps past the nurse's station when his presence loomed. He didn't call my name. He never did, not with warmth. He stood tall, imposing, as if the world owed him reverence for existing. His shadow fell across the tiles, and I hesitated, hoping for once he'd say something unscripted, something not meant to pull me back into submission. Instead, he spoke with chilling calm. "You're a selfish error." No raised voice, no pointed finger, no quiver of rage, just a statement, as if he'd believed it for years and no longer bothered to hide it. I blinked but didn't cry. I didn't ask what he meant. That would have given him the courtesy of doubt. Instead, I let his words settle like heavy stone, pressing but hardening quickly. I wouldn't let them sink too deep. Behind him, Leela's room glowed like a stage, her smirk still etched on her face, untouched. I stepped aside to avoid brushing his shoulder. Once, that would have felt like rebellion. Now it was just claiming my space, my breath, my body. As I walked away, every year of my life pressed against me, urging me to apologize. I kept walking. At the water fountain near the family lounge, I stopped, not to drink but to breathe. My mind, betraying me, flipped through memories like old files. Leela in the window seat on a childhood vacation, while I was stuck in the middle, too short for a view, they said. My birthday, Leela got a car, I got a sweater. You don't go anywhere anyway, Dad said. Leela spilling coffee on my college acceptance letter before I could read it, claiming it was an accident. Mom believed her. Be grateful, they always said. We didn't have to take you in. Even before I knew I was adopted, their tone reminded me of a debt I never chose. I didn't realize I was leaning against the wall until a nurse passed, her eyes meeting mine briefly before moving on. No one asked if I was okay, and I was glad. I didn't want witnesses. I needed this moment to be mine. Pulling out my phone, I found the email, National Donor Match Results Confidential. I'd taken the test when Leela got sick, before they even asked, hoping it would end if I wasn't a match. Naive, I know. I forwarded the email to Dr. Hallstrom and my friend Jenna Cruz, my legal backup. Subject: confirming record incompatibility. I hit send, staring at my name, Ava Monroe. Not Leela's sister, not Evelyn's daughter, just Ava. When I looked up, my parents were gone, likely plotting their next move. They'd once convinced others I was unstable, dramatic, fragile, while I spent years trying to be calm, quiet, rational. But now, I realized I no longer craved their approval. Their disappointment didn't wound, it clarified. I was outside their game, seeing the rules for the first time. At the lobby desk, the nurse offered a guest pass to return to Leela's room. I shook my head. No, I'm stepping out for a bit. Will you be back? She asked. I considered the question, not just for now, but for always. I'll let you know, I said, walking out. Outside, Raleigh's early spring air smelled of magnolias, dust, and wet concrete, grounding me in reality, away from sterile lights and family ghosts. My car wasn't there. I'd taken a rideshare, too unsteady to drive. I called another, then opened my notes app and wrote, if they claim I refused for no reason, here's the timeline. Tested. Results received. Notified. The National Registry confirms I'm not a match. Then, unbidden, I added, you can't give what you don't have. You can't love where you're not allowed to exist. You can't stay where you were never welcomed. I saved it, got into the rideshare, and headed to a quiet coffee shop nearby. I needed space, not to run, but to think. They wanted me to be the villain, but I wouldn't play that part. I had my evidence, my truth, and soon my voice, not the one that begged to stay small, but the one that had been quietly growing for years. They called me an error, but I was ready to show what an error could do when it stopped apologizing. At a bench near a quiet bus stop, I sat, needing a moment free from scrutiny. My phone buzzed, not Jenna, but Olivia Reyes, a friend from years ago who'd seen the truth behind our family's facade. Her email was brief. I saw your name in the news. I kept this. Attached were 3 scans, a notebook page detailing an incident Olivia witnessed, Leela's cruelty, my pain, a faded Polaroid of a bruise on my ribs dated May 16th, and a note in my handwriting asking Olivia to tell our teacher if something happened again. I stared, not crying, just overwhelmed by being seen. It was real. It happened. I opened my voice recorder and spoke. They called me dramatic, a liar inventing stories because I couldn't handle reality. But I handled it too well, too quietly. I saved the file as Statement Draft 1, drafting an email to the hospital's ethics board and legal team, preparing for the media if needed. This wasn't revenge, it was truth. Back at the hospital, Dr. Hallstrom called me into his office. There's an issue with your file, he said, showing me a form claiming I'd given medical power of attorney, my signature forged. Your mother submitted it, he confirmed. My stomach tightened, but I stayed calm. I want a printed copy, I said. He handed it over, noting it was a serious ethical violation. I left, forwarding the forged document to Jenna with one line. They falsified my consent. In Leela's room, I confronted her. You knew I wasn't a match, you saw the results. She didn't deny it, just shrugged. You showed up, didn't you? I stepped closer. I've sent everything, the registry, the forgery, your texts. I didn't come to fight, Leela. I came with proof. Her face flickered, not with fear, but irritation. As I left, I said, you didn't win, you just delayed the truth. I sent emails to the hospital's compliance and legal teams, copying Jenna. The hospital responded, promising an investigation. I sat in the Atrium Cafe, drafting a public statement. Ava Monroe was tested for organ donation compatibility with Leela Monroe. I was not a match. Evelyn Monroe withheld this, coercing me. I reserve the right to act if this is used to defame me. I sent it to Jenna, turned off my phone, and let the silence settle. They'd manipulated the system, but the paper trail now favored me. When my parents approached again, clipboard in hand, I stood firm. Sign it, my mother demanded. For your sister. For your soul, I snapped. Touch me again and I'll file charges. Your clipboard won't save you. I have proof. A nurse intervened, offering a patient advocate. My mother's sobs followed me, but they were just theater. I didn't sleep that night, pacing my apartment, the hospital folder open on my table. I wasn't their daughter, I was their leverage. But now I had the paperwork, the truth, and a voice ready to speak. They counted on me to forget, but I wouldn't. And I'd make sure no one else did either. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.